Good morning, everybody.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Good morning.
Oh, and Gordon, we're going to talk to you today or next week about blogs,
Next week.
and next week. So
Yeah.
I had them cancel that because of what's going on, and which left a gap today, and I'm the official gap filler. And I'm going to talk about LinkedIn for several reasons, but I want to start out with a scripture in Acts. Does anybody remember the order in which he was telling the disciples that they were to go into all the world? Okay, somebody tell me.
You
Two
had
by
several
two.
head shakes, yes, but you can't hear our heads rattling, and we're mostly muted. So,
2 by 2.
Yeah,
Well, two by two, that's correct.
their own city, the local area, the
Which
neighbors,
was
and then the rest of the world, Samaria. But
that's
so
right.
Jerusalem, Samaria,
Judea.
and
Actually, it's Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, the othermost parts of the world. So what I want you to do is this morning is look at Jerusalem as the city you live in. And I want you to look at Judea as the county that you live in. And then I want you to look at Samaria as the state that you live in. I don't know how Eileen's going to put this together, uh, but and then the othermost parts of the world would be the country you live in and beyond. Okay, so I want to challenge your thinking a little bit. Why do you think he told the disciples to leave their city? What do you think the city represents?
I think it would be family, and they would be less hurt there.
Okay, I think he's talking about our comfort zone.
Ah. Okay.
Okay, same thing. But some of us have found out what Jesus said is that a prophet is not without honor among his own people and in his own land. And so I don't know if you found out like I have, but not everybody in my family gives a rip that I'm an author. Uh, I don't think very many of them know about this community because I'm just, well, that's Tom. That's Tom the atom bomb from my childhood. And realize that Jesus is the greatest author in the world or in history. Think about him writing a #1 selling book from the very first publication and every year since then and going forward. Think about him sending out the disciples in the manner in which he sent them. And there were only 12. And here we are in 2022. And what he established and still growing and going strong. And we know that we can tell that by the fact that we've witnessed to each other this morning about God's goodness. We prayed for each other. We shared our needs. Um, these are all the things that Jesus wants done. Okay, so I'm going to take you out of your comfort zone into the uttermost part of the world called LinkedIn. One of the things that we're seeing, and feel free to interrupt me whenever you want to. You can raise your hand or you can just interrupt me. It doesn't matter. Try to keep in mind, though, that we're recording, and so we want everybody's mic muted. But the thing is that we are trying to fulfill a vision that God has given us in a calling that we've been given to the very best of our ability. And I know I've said this before, but I'm building a case here. In this vision that he's given us and this calling, we sometimes wonder why God isn't selling the books for us, knocking the doors down with readers who want our books. Have you ever thought about that? You know, well, it's not that way with pastors. If Gordon was here, he would tell you, being a church planter, that building a church is extremely difficult, time consuming, challenging, and it takes a lot of knowledge and a lot of intuition about people and those kind of things. And the way churches are built are one person at a time, usually through the relationship with a pastor or someone else in the church. That's God's plan. A lot of times we have mega churches that draw people from a lot of other churches. And I'm not being judgmental here, but when that happens, God doesn't see any growth there on the bottom line. He just sees people shifting from one church to another. And the church says we're growing. Well, that maybe that individual brick and mortar church at that location is showing an increase in membership, but God's overall church is not growing as a result of what's happening. So we have to work at it, just like missionaries. I've worked with a lot of missionaries over the years. And I remember one couple telling me that from the time they got the calling till the time they went to school and got the education, decided what country they believed God wanted them to go to, learned the language of that country, raised their support, packed up their family, sold their home, moved to that country, studied the country's traditions and policy or political situation, met people, introduced themselves, developed a relationship with them. It was 20 years before they saw their first fruit as a missionary. Thankfully, I'm speaking for myself, I didn't have to go through that being called to write. Although that was, wow, back in about 1970. Okay, so I've been at it, what, 62 years? And so I have learned a few things. And so one of the things that I've learned is social media is the best thing that has ever come along for building anything. Back in the day, when I was a financial planner, I had to pick up a phone book. Y'all remember what a phone book is? Has everybody's name and address and phone number, yellow pages. It used to be that you could call the library and they didn't have a computer, but big libraries had telephone books from all over the country. And so if I wanted to do some business in Kansas, I would call the library and then I would just tell them who I wanted to talk to and they would give me the number, give me their address. We don't do that today. But then I could make a phone call, which was long distance, that if it lasted 30 minutes, could possibly cost me 20 or 30 bucks. depending on where they were, to do business. Now I can pick up my cell phone and I can call anywhere in the world through WhatsApp, and it doesn't cost me a penny. And then I can go to some place like LinkedIn, which is now my phone book, and have access to 200 million people if I was able to do that. Now, there's a lot of social media platforms, and if you're on Facebook right now, there's some awfully strange things happening there. Everything is changing. You don't know who is getting your post. You don't know if anybody is really seeing your author's page. That is rapidly changing. But the one platform that I see that is not changing is LinkedIn. It's just steady Eddie. And I know most people think that LinkedIn is business to business. And it is a lot. But you have to remember that you're a business and other authors are business. So that part of it can be business to business. But I'm telling you that those 200 million people are probably more reading people than the people on Facebook or any other platform you get on except for Goodreads. And Goodreads is about half the size of LinkedIn, but you cannot do on Goodreads what you can do on LinkedIn. Okay. So I'm going to tell you exactly what I do. It reaches out and draws every one of you, except for just a few, but 99.7% of all of you I have met on LinkedIn. And you're in this community because we met on LinkedIn. And this has all happened in this community. Let me see, who's the longest who's been here? Nancy, you think you're the longest person here? How long have you been in the community?
I think I've been here about a year and a half, but I think Eileen has been here just about the same or a little longer.
How long for you, Eileen?
And Steve Muir too.
About the same time, yeah.
The first meeting I came to, they were 2 years.
2 years?
I think so.
Okay.
Sorry, it takes ages for my mute button to go on and off. Yes, about 2 years, I think, or more. I don't know. It seems a long
Okay.
time.
Has anybody been here more than 2 years? I don't think so. Okay, so this community has been developed in this format on Microsoft Teams, doing what I'm going to show you that I do in 2 years' time. And to me, that's amazing because we had 3 people get involved with the community yesterday. One was a friend of Nancy's that she brought in from a Christian writing group in Jamestown, North Dakota. One that Kim brought in, who's an author that she has worked with. And one is a pastor that I met on LinkedIn about a year and a half ago, that's writing books and doesn't have a clue what to do. Now that's exciting. That's the most people that I've had get involved in one day. It used to be, I was happy with 3 a month, but 3 a day, wow. And so this community is like I think I told Kim the other day, it's like a spaceship sitting on the launch pad, and the fuel is there and the countdown has started, and this community is taking off. I'm not going to make any predictions about what's going to be here at the end of the year, but you can tell by the things that are happening. You all probably got an email this week about maybe being in an advertising group, but if you clicked on the button to join, you couldn't. I didn't realize that as we're reconstructing on an idea that Sherry gave to Kim about developing levels of membership within the community. And right now, everybody's in the same level. And so the new person coming in today gets blitzed immediately with all the things that you guys have grown with for as long as you've been here. And that's not good. But I never had the team that I could do anything about that until Nancy, Gordon, Landon, Kim, Michelle, and others have come along, because we're very much like a church now. There's some paid staff. There's some volunteers. I don't know. It's just an amazing thing. So we now have an advisory council that's working with me, and we're analyzing all the teams and all the channels to see what level they should be on, who should be in them, whether we're going to keep them or not, all those kind of things. So you're going to see a lot of changes, okay? But we have to keep up with growth. Our attrition rate is extremely low, and the only people that seem to leave are those because of illness or finances, discouragement. Those are probably the three things. But we're above 50 members now. Okay, so now I've said enough. I'm going to share with you LinkedIn, and I want you to please get interactive with me. And the person we see is Gordon, if everybody can see my screen. Okay. And Gordon is way, way, way out of his comfort zone. I'm sure you all realize that. As am I, as is some of you others that make yourself known on social media. And I've said before that the reason that there's over 2 billion people on Facebook around the world, over 200 million on LinkedIn and these other channels, as these people want connection, especially in this day and age that we're living in with the pandemic, excuse me, the pandemic and all of that kind of stuff. So let's see what Gordon says. Gordon says, no matter how you define it, success never comes easy. The struggle is part of the process, but worth the end result. And I found LinkedIn to give me the best return on my investment of any platform that I'm on. In fact, I've gotten off of Twitter. I have cut my Facebook down just to family and friends that I've met on the internet. One time I had 5,700 people on there, and now I've got, I don't know, 300, something like that. I'm not done with Facebook, but it's mainly because of my family. I don't know what my grandkids are doing if I'm not on Facebook. Sometimes I don't know what my kids are doing if I'm not on Facebook. So I'm not going to get off Facebook. But the only other two social medias I have are LinkedIn and Goodreads. Because Goodreads is a concentration of authors, LinkedIn is a concentration of business-minded people. So now I'm going to scroll down my news feed. And this is what I do pretty often. And I'm looking down to see who's posting what. And then I look to see what they're getting. Now, it's not fair to this person who posted this because even though she's posted it 6 days ago, and that surprises me that it's just showing up here now. But usually it's like those who posted today, and she's only got 8 people who have commented. And so she needs to do some analyzing if she wants to continue doing that with that small amount of people posting. Okay, now here's another person. He said, God is bigger than your past, your pain, your fear, your scars. Okay, so this is coming from, referred by Mark and Jessica, but it comes from C Suite for Christ or Fellowship for Christ. Okay, and look at the, can't even think what these are called now. But anyway, God, faith, business,
Hashtag,
leadership, management. I'm sorry?
hashtags. The pound sign?
Hashtags, thank you.
Hashtag.
Hashtags, right. Okay, and it's coming from Paul Nurenberger, who's a sales trainer and a keynote speaker. Well, obviously this is Christian, and there's 887 others, plus these few here. What I go to is I look at the comments. Okay, I see Dr. Lee. He's on my second level. He's an influencer, a top negotiator, an economist, a board member. Okay, I don't know where he is, but if I want to see, I can click on there and it tells that he's in Taiwan. And I can learn all kinds of things about him. And what I'm wondering is, among his things, is he an author? I know he's a pretty sharp guy because he's managing $2 billion in a fund portfolio in the United States. And I'm looking down here and I don't see anything that tells me that he is an author. Okay, so I know he won't help me in that area. Okay, I also know that he has 7,725 followers and over 500 connections. And that 500 could be up to 100,000. There's no way of knowing, because when I click on the contact information, all I can get is his Twitter address, his website, and his LinkedIn address. But if he connected with me, then I could get his email address and I could start talking to him and developing a relationship and figuring out how I can get interactive and influence any of these 7,700 people that he's following. I call him a whale because he's a big influencer. Okay, so far what I'm doing here? Okay, so I come back to this. He's the first person who made a comment. Why am I looking at people who make comments? Because they're interacting. They're interested in what's being posted. And you notice that when all he says is indeed, amen. And Paul Nurenberger, who's the guy who put this post up, responds back to him with a very nice reply and blesses the man and his family. Okay. All right. Now, Kevin, he says, amen. And he still responds to that. Okay. I can load more comments. All right, Abraham responses, God bless. And again, he responds. He responds to everyone. And here comes Martha, who's a nurse. And she probably says, I cannot depend on anyone but, and I wouldn't be surprised if that says God. And all she says is amen. But he doesn't respond to her because she's replying to what Abraham said. Okay, Althora is the manager and just amen. Okay, he hadn't responded to that person yet. Juan says yes. Alice says, be still and know that I am God. He responds to her. Why do you think he's responding to all these people? Anybody?
Out of courtesy, I mean, at least.
Okay. Out of courtesy.
He's building his network is what he's doing. That's why he's responding. He's strategically building his network, in my opinion.
Okay. So what's his first step here?
Posting?
Yeah, but what's he doing in that posting? He's knocking on the door of that
And
person
inviting interaction.
and inviting interaction. Okay, now, why would I want to interact with this guy?
Because it's going to
Let me go
feel
back up.
good when you get heard online, because so much of what you do on the internet is like interacting with a TV. And when you actually hear back from somebody, it feels really good.
It does. You feel recognized. Okay,
Right.
how many times do you walk down the street and say hi to somebody and
Yes.
you don't get any eye contact or anything? Or how many times have you gone into a church as a new person and felt like you're totally invisible? But let's take a look at him. He's got 32,376 followers. He's an international keynote speaker, an entrepreneur, a sales trainer, covering the world in Christ. He's an author of the book, The Secrets to Cold Call Success. And so I want to connect with him. So I'm going to follow and I'm going to connect. Now, when this connect comes up, I can send him a message. I can either go in here and send him a message that's in private, but what I would rather do is send him a message right here. And so what I'm going to say is, I'm not going to do it right now, but something I might say like, Paul, I saw your post about, and tell him what it's about, and that I appreciated it. And it amazes me how many followers you have. But I see that you're a Christian author. And I have established a Christian author community, and I would like to talk to you. And if you're interested, please connect with me. Okay, one or two things that's going to happen. Now, I can tell you, number one thing that's going to happen is if I don't take these steps, nothing's going to happen. My odds go up tremendously, and I don't like the odds because this is not luck, but you know what I'm saying. The percentage goes up. If I make that contact with him, then now I have a 50-50 chance of him responding. If he doesn't respond, I don't put his name somewhere and track it and all that kind of stuff, because if he doesn't respond, he's not interested and I'm not going to pursue anymore. But if he does respond, what does that tell you?
He's interested.
Yeah, he's interested,
interested.
and
And you've gained access to that many more people that he's dealing with. It's
Right. Okay. So he's interested. That makes him a very high quality connection. Can't get much higher than that. Okay, so then I will go to a private message, and actually what I will do next is I will go to my Christian authors community on LinkedIn, and over here it says invite connections, and I will type his name in here when he connects with me, and then I'll invite him to be a member of my online community. Now, why would I do that? Any idea?
So he'll start seeing your posts and content.
Yeah. More connection, more exposure. I'm giving him some insight into what I'm doing.
If you provide value to him,
I'd like to think that I would. I'd like to think that. And then I'm opening the door to comment on his post. And when I comment on the post, that's a potential 37,000 people that see that comment. So then when I post on LinkedIn in general, and I send out the post to everybody, not just my connections, then I'd like to think there's a fair chance that some of those 37,000 will see my name and recognize it, and maybe will click on my profile and see who I am and make a connection with me. Does all this make sense?
I have a question, Tom, if you don't mind.
Okay.
When you get a notice in your email that says, you know, so many people have been looking at your profile, is that exactly what they were doing, what you just showed us?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, the next question is, what do you do with those people who have looked at your profile? If you just look at them and say, wow, that's nice, I had 10 people look. Sometimes I have 200 or 300 a week look. And what I do is I go through those, just like what I'm showing you here, and I look and see who they are, and I'm trying to decide if they are trying to prospect me for their business, or if they're interested in me for my business. Are they an author? But it's an open door. I don't know of any other platform on the internet at this time where you can do this kind of in-depth searching and gathering information and make connections this easily with somebody that if I went to the door of his office and walked in and told his secretary, I would like to see the president of the company, and she'd look and say, well, who are you? And I say, I'm Tom Blubaugh. And she said, that doesn't tell me anything. Do you know him? Do you have an appointment? You know, why should I let you in to see him? She's the gatekeeper. With LinkedIn, I go directly to the man or the woman. I have no gatekeeper to deal with. I don't have to explain anything to them. And I've got a pretty good shot of a chance that they will respond to me with a connection and open that door to let me get into their circle of influence. Okay, I'm going to quit sharing because I could take you deeper, but I don't want to right now. I want to talk.
Tom, I got a quick question.
Okay.
In order to do this level of scrutiny, do you need to have the premium LinkedIn?
No. I do have the premium because if I want to email that person, I have to have premium to be able to do it. But I can still send him a private message. Okay, it depends on what I'm trying to do. And if he joins my LinkedIn group, then I have a canned letter. I mean, it's a what do you call it? Well, it's a canned letter. And I put I'll say dear with his name, and then it tells him
Solicitation.
about the community. Yeah, what I'm trying to do, and it gives a link in there to go look at the community website, and it gives a link where he can talk to me in a video chat for a half hour with no obligation, no cost. I can keep the conversation going with him until he starts asking about me. And what's interesting is one person I talked to the other day, which was very, very nice. In fact, it was Jacob that was on here a few weeks ago. He just on that one time, but he's meeting with Gordon today. I had lunch with him because he and his family happened to be on vacation here in Myrtle Beach. So we shared a cup of coffee in a little place. I wanted to know about him. He wanted to know about me. We spent about an hour together. And when I got done, he looked at me and he said, Tom, I've got a question now. And I said, sure. He said, what can I do for you? That's rare when that happens. But he said, what can I do for you? And I said, Jacob, you can tell other authors that you know and meet about me and my community. And he says, well, I just so happen to have a friend who's writing a book now. And he and I were talking the other week. He knows nothing about the book publishing business or anything. His name is, and he gave me his name, and he said, you'll probably be hearing from him in the not too distant future. I wasn't even thinking about that happening, but it just comes when you're talking to people and you get to know them. They take any kind of an interest in what you're doing.
It's the same process, Tom, that I did
Now,
with
one of the things,
Stacy. It's basically the same process. So we just happened to click, and we asked each other questions, and then from there it developed in the same process as you did. And I left the message with the link to the community and in your email.
yep, and she and I connected, and she came in for the 30 days, and I extended her free membership till April because she's building a business with her book, and the timing just wasn't exactly right. And so I told her, I said, I want to extend your membership to the end of March. And that just solidified us even more. And I didn't do it to solidify, I did it because I wanted to be in the community. You don't know how people are going to react until you knock on their door and come in, because what they're telling you by being on LinkedIn or any of these platforms, they're saying, hey, I'm just a person like you are. I want to make connections just like you do. Knock on my door and invite me. That's why they're on here. Now, I don't mess around when they don't have a picture of themselves, or if they have their dog or their cat or their boat or anything else, because I don't know who that is. I really don't even know who that is if I see a picture, because they could throw Brad Pitt's picture up there and I wouldn't know the difference. Took the bait and then they, just kidding, I'm not really Brad. I'm a pirate from the Caribbean and I'm trying to rob you. I mean, it could be that kind of a thing. So, okay, talk to me. What's in your mind? what can I tell you to encourage you to do what I'm suggesting that you do
Tom,
if you're serious about growing your readership? Yes.
Tom, one thing I've noticed with LinkedIn, and I've just gotten back kind of on it from years ago, and that was Bill has said he's a photographer and he uses a lot. So I've kind of, and I think 2.5 times my membership stuff. But here's what I'm wondering. As I look at the people, you know, on there, of course, the more that you click on writers or you know, promotional people or whatever, the more of those that are fed to you just through a basic feed of people trying to connect to you. I'm looking to expand that to some degree. Maybe you aren't because you're dealing specifically with authors, which I'm dealing with too with you. But do you know what I'm saying? I want to broaden that network to engineers and to doctors and to other people that like pastors and, you know, that will read my work too. So how do you address that? You know what I'm saying? You're kind of narrowed into writers. I don't know that they can do everything I
Okay, let me share my
as far as
screen again.
purchasing. Okay.
Great question,
Okay.
Kim.
Yeah, that is a great question. Now, LinkedIn probably has the best search engine outside of Google for their community. And this search box right here, I can type in doctor. Here's doctors. See all the results. 1,990,000 doctors. So Kim, you might want to narrow that down a little bit. You might want to say Doctor of Theology. Okay. Now, that limited a little too much. No, here it is. 960,000 doctors of theology. That should keep you busy for a few months. But now you can go down to every one of these people and you can click on her and you can see what she does. She's a king builder. And if you want to connect with her, then you do just like I said. You connect on there. You can add a note. You can send her the message. And if she responds to you, she's a quality connection. Does that answer your question? Okay. You can do that with about any. Yeah, you can do that with teachers. You can do it with authors. You can do it with pastors. You just name it. I mean, and immediately you have a huge list of people that you can start developing.
Gee, I wonder if there are librarians on here.
Sure there
Librarians?
There
are.
are.
I'm sure. That would be
Let me go back.
You name it, it's there.
Tom,
Yeah,
I wanted to add a
I get
caveat.
these brilliant light bulb flashes, you know, every now and then.
Okay, here's librarians. 401,000.
Mhm.
Now, that doesn't mean that they are strictly a librarian, but they are somehow involved with the library. They might be a board member. They might be a librarian. They might be a, all of these people are children's librarian, law librarian. This is worth millions of dollars to you.
Mm-hmm.
That LinkedIn has already spent attracting all these people and putting them in one place where you can develop relationships with them. If I had had this back in 1969, the Lord probably would have taken me home because I'd be a billionaire and probably not listening to him. Okay, questions, comments?
Tom, I wanted to add something about connections versus following.
Okay,
First of all, if somebody's in creator mode, so I am, a lot of us who are on LinkedIn because we want people to see us as experts, as people to go to add value to their life. Creator mode is an easy thing to do. And it automatically says these people prefer you to follow. So go ahead and connect with them if you can, like Tom, be really honest, and because I do that all the time and say, I really want to follow you and I love what you care about. I'm passionate about this too. And I'll put that a connection, and they almost always connect with me. The one thing to be careful on, the way LinkedIn works, if I've accepted a connection, that person now has much greater access to all my connections. When somebody's a second rank, they have a lot easier time getting to my audience. So I've had to unconnect with a few people who ended up being spammers because they suddenly have access to my people, and I'm not going to have my trust violated by being the conduit for these spammers to get to them. So I always go to check out people who want to connect with me to see, are these the kind of people who look really pushy salesmen? So, but it can also be a great thing if you get connected with a librarian, then you can get to their connections more easily. And as you start getting to where you have 36 shared connections, and they're much likely to accept your connection request. So it can be a very good thing if you use it judiciously.
absolutely. Yeah, we have to be careful in whatever we do. You know, the Lord tells us to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. And that's the way we need to approach it. I go through I'm going through it one at a time on my LinkedIn community because people can join my community that aren't my first level. And so maybe I want to keep them, maybe I don't. Well, I've got it set up now so everybody has to be approved by me. And if they're a digital marketer, if they're a editor, but they're not an author and things like that, they don't get in my community because they're looking for business. And for the same reason, I'm not going to let them do that. So yeah, you do have to be careful, but the advantage of LinkedIn is that you can look at their profile. Ever do anything. And if their profile is really skinny, like it says they haven't posted anything for a while, and maybe they want to connect with me, and I can't find anywhere in their profile that they're a Christian, let alone a Christian author. I don't, because not that I wouldn't like to meet them and all that kind of stuff. I'm not being judgmental or anything. I'm just valuing my time and lining things up with the vision God's given me and what I believe He wants me to do. But that's good, Sherry. Appreciate that. 5 minutes left, unless you wanted to go longer. Any other questions? Any comments?
Those levels that you're talking about, level 1, level 2, is that just if you have a group, or is that general?
That's
No,
general.
that's
Are you
general.
connected?
What does that mean?
If it's first, you've
That
accepted their
means-
connection.
Right.
Okay, and what's the second level?
Second level means it's on my first connections.
That
Their first level.
one of my connections is connected to them.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do the different levels give them now?
Well,
I mean, if they're a second level, can they do things that a first level can't do, or vice versa? Or I'm not really totally
Not
understanding.
Not
Yes.
really. Not really.
So
It
when
just,
I'm
it,
looking,
it just,
yeah, Tom,
it
if you
just
don't mind.
broadens your field.
Yeah. When I'm looking to connect with people, I want to see, and I do this on Facebook too. Do they have any shared connections? Especially if it's a guy. If they don't have any shared connections with me, the odds of me connecting with them is like almost zero. But if they have 36 and I see that they all share a common theme, like they're all homeschoolers or whatever it is, then I'm much more likely to accept them because all these other people that I want to be connected with have accepted it. So it's just like a street cred thing.
Okay. I got it.
Yeah. So you find a
Right.
librarian or two that you really connect with and they fall in love with your stuff. And then you start going after their friends that interact with them regularly. And then you can expand outward and they're much more likely to see you're not just going to spam them with buy my book all day.
Right.
Now, when you're thinking about librarians, libraries a lot of time have book clubs that meet there. And they have the same tools we have, Zoom and all those kind of things.
Yeah,
And
one
we're
of the
living,
libraries I saw right at the top of the stack on your screen, Tom, was in Fort Lauderdale. And that's not that far from me. So if I could do local libraries, maybe I could contact librarians, say I'm a local author, I'm an author in Florida. You know, would you be interested in, you know, having me come and, you know, talk about writing, talk about being an author, you know, and you might be able to get some connections that way, even on the local level, which would be
right?
great.
And
Shimmery.
some libraries even have, allow you to have book signings.
Right.
Now, I'll do a book signing in a library. I don't particularly care to do book signings because it takes a lot of time and I may make a few sales, but it's usually out of the storage inventory and all those kind of things. But I will do one in a library in a heartbeat because everybody who comes past my table is a reader of
Mhm.
some kind. And
Shimmery.
I don't
Yes,
know.
Kim.
Go ahead, Tom.
I'm just going to say, I don't know who they might introduce me to. So let me toss this out and then Kim, I'll get to you. One of the things it's in a PowerPoint video that's in one of the channels, but I heard a pastor say, anyone can anyone can cut open an apple and count the number of seeds. But only God can count the number of apples in a seed.
Mhm.
And when I heard that, I took that to my office, or I cut open an apple, I took a seed, taped it to my computer to remind me that no matter who I talk to, I have no idea what kind of fruit can come out of that relationship, but God does. And so I use that not to be too judgmental, you know, introduce myself to a person because, okay, so Nancy's involved. Now she's bringing in members. Kim's bringing in members. John's brought in members. And he brought in Jay. And he brought in Stacy. And this is how it works. And as we go down the line, then the person who Nancy brought in may reach out and bring in other people. And it just grows. And that's all you're trying to do. You're planting seeds, you're watering seeds. God gives the increase.
Yeah, I may be getting a bunch of family members in here. My 3 oldest daughters are going to do the NaNoWriMo thing again. So they're getting all excited.
All right.
Adriel's finally going, okay, I'm going to take my 80,000 word manuscript I wrote last time we did NaNoWriMo, and I'm going to actually edit it. So I'm praising God for that because it's a really sweet book. And I really wanted her to do that. And she's one that has a hard time, you know. She gets scared. She gets frightened really easily and overwhelmed really
Yeah.
easily. So
Yeah.
anyway, Kim?
Kim?
Shimmery, I just wanted to say to you, from years of working with local libraries here and trying to get local author recognition through some of our groups that we've done, it wasn't until I went out to Boulder and Longmont and got in the libraries there that then they began to flip around here. So I would suggest to you, just from my experience and other writers that I've published in it, find a library a little further away. You know, what Tom was talking about in Acts, you know, what in our own town, Jesus says.
Right.
And then go to your local library, because it might give you some kind of credibility that I don't know why that is. I have no idea. But that's been my experience and several people that I know. So give that a shot, I say to you.
All right.
Well, I can tell you why that is, because for years as a financial planner, I would go out of town as an invitation to somebody and carried a briefcase, and I was all of a sudden an expert. And so an expert is someone from out of town that you don't know that carries a briefcase that was brought in by somebody else. And so that's what works for you. When you say, well, I've been working with the Longmont, Colorado library, you know, that's how things work. Okay, I want to make an offer to you, but you're going to have to set an appointment with me to do it because my time gets a little crazy. But if any of you want me to sit down with you in a video call and we go down through some of the connections that you have on LinkedIn and try this out for yourself and stuff, I'll be glad to do that. Okay. So just, I'm your go-to guy. Okay. Well,
Tom, Paul has his hand up.
any other questions?
Paul's had his hand up for a while.
Okay. I'm sorry, Paul.
I don't understand how, you know, the couple blogs I write a week, how in the world it can work on other platforms such as LinkedIn. I still haven't got on Medium, and I need to. But all of my 8,500 plus are through Facebook. Am I making any sense?
You got a lot of followers on LinkedIn. You got a lot of followers on LinkedIn.
Well, yeah, some of them are through LinkedIn. Yeah, yes.
But here's the thing that you could do, Paul. You could start your own group on LinkedIn. Paul's Bible Study or
but
whatever.
I can send blogs through LinkedIn.
Yes, you do it through your community, and you can post them in your live feed.
I do it every week.
I'm not as smart as rest of you.
Yes, you are. You just don't know what some other people know.
Do you have them
But
as
I can help.
documents, or do you just have them? Did you just type them out on Facebook?
I send it through Facebook, period. But some of them know me through LinkedIn.
Okay, but are they documents? Because any document you can attach it to your post.
I write. I write them in English and Spanish, and I keep my messages less than a page. And I'm beginning to get some Spanish-speaking countries.
Good. Yeah, put them as an attachment to your post. You can attach photos to your post. You can attach documents to your post. You just write a post and say, you know, here is the latest blog, and then attach your document.
Well,
anybody can click on that and read it.
I might bug you with a conversation, and we got to take it slowly.
Okay.
But while I'm Lord's blessed me a lot, you know, with the folks that do follow me. But the Lord, I feel like, called me to do what I'm doing. And
No doubt about that.
and he's doing it through me. I'm not trying to be funny. If it wasn't for him doing it through me, this wouldn't be worth 2 cents. But my goal is to get the Christian message out into the world. And I'm
And
getting
what you're doing.
every week I get real positive responses. I'm amazed how many Pakistanis I have. So many countries I really don't know. I know 18, that's all I know.
You're not supposed to know. The
Yeah.
way I see it happening with you, Paul, when you get to heaven, the Lord's going to say, Paul, turn around. You see all these thousands of people standing there? They're all here because of you.
You know, I don't know. You make me think of one lady when I was pastoring in Chicago. She wasn't a Christian. I witnessed her many times. Well, she was dying from cancer and scared to death. Every time I'd go to the hospital, and that was every day, she was scared to death. And you know what? Something happened to make me think she made a decision. The last time I saw her alive, she'd lost her voice. She motioned for me to put my ear on her mouth. She said, Brother Paul, I love you. And I can't help believe she came peace with God.
Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful?
Mhm.
And
It is.
go ahead. Go
I think
ahead.
No,
we're all
because when you're done, I'm
with
going to
you.
cut this off, Paul. Yeah.
I just wanted to tell you though, Paul,
because
that I'm sorry.
No.
I was
Go
just
ahead,
gonna
Nancy.
okay. I see your blogs on Facebook, and I don't think you'll find it any harder to post them on LinkedIn. I think I mean, does that sound right to you, Tom? I think if he
Yep.
able to post them on Facebook, you're going to do the exact same thing just over on LinkedIn. I don't think you'll have a lot to learn. You'll just put them up the same way.
Well, the thing is, you're using Messenger, Paul. But when you use LinkedIn, you're going to have a lot stronger connection with those people. And you're going to be able to reach much further than them on LinkedIn than I think you will on Facebook. So, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, Nancy, I may call you too. You got to take this in small steps. But I need to do more. I need to do more.
Find it easier than you think, but yeah, everybody will help if we can. You know, we can share what we know.
Well, I appreciate you, Cam. Well, a whole bunch of I appreciate you.
Okay, Nancy, I want you to talk to Kim about talking about libraries and how she works with libraries.
Okay.
And then I want to do another session because I want to move this into how Landon and I work out email campaigns with the people that I have on LinkedIn, and because that's another part.
Okay.
Okay. All right, everybody have a wonderful day, wonderful weekend. We'll see you next week.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody. Good to see you.